All right, let's talk about it. There were some celebrities who were here, but there were some celebrities who backed out, or so the rumors and innuendo would have you to believe. The two empty seats we talked about earlier in the front were Donald Trump. Donald Trump was there because Marla Maples was there, and roll tide on that, right?
Yeah, they were dating.
Yeah, so Trump's there. Chuck Norris is there. He's interviewed on camera. Lou Ferrigno, Henry Winkler. Alex Trebek replaces Bob Costas, or so we've been led to believe. Bob Costas had some sort of quote that said it wouldn't be in the best taste or something like that, and pulled out. He had been, and was later, a WWF proponent, but seemingly backs out here because of the perceived controversy of the Iraq War. Rumors and innuendo would also lead you to believe that Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold, who are a pretty big deal around this time, were supposedly supposed to be there, and being in Los Angeles, that makes sense. But they back out too. Do you remember what their plans would have been for them at WrestleMania? Was it just to say hi and bye, or would Roseanne have done something?
No,
she was pretty hot at the time.
No, it was strictly to be like guest ring announcers and stuff like that, guest interviewer, things like that. I do remember Costas. I don't remember in that particular instance Roseanne and Tom Arnold. I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? Right. It was simply they would have been, guest timekeeper, no different than what Trebek and Regis and Marla did.
So
celebrities on the fringe.
Let's talk about the Iraq stuff. This wasn't the original plan for WrestleMania VII. So talk to me a little bit about where this idea first comes from. It's WrestleMania, so Hulk Hogan's figured in big, but you revealed it before what the original idea was, and I don't think that we've really expounded on that here on your show. Kind of lay that out for everybody.
Well, the original idea was...
Let's set the backstory. It's summer 1990. Earthquake attacks Hulk Hogan, gives Hogan some time off TV. He's going to go film Suburban Commando, I think. Is that right?
I think that was the one, yeah.
So he films Suburban Commando, which actually comes out a couple months after WrestleMania VII, so that timeline lines up. And he does the chest finish, the sit-down gimmick on Hogan, and then Hogan's out, and he's off TV, and there's a new character, Tugboat, is introduced, and he is Hogan's pal, and he's going to try to come to the rescue and help him, and they're doing these bracelets, and you can get one of these bracelets if you'll just write in and blah, 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 and you're supporting your Hulkster, and they're showing all these letters that are coming in. You guys are doing an address capture campaign, which is pretty amazing. People do it with email and text message numbers now, but back then snail mail was the deal. And
got to build that mailing list.
And so it builds to SummerSlam 1990, which is Earthquake versus Hulk Hogan in Philadelphia. And the seeds are starting to be planted. What was the original plan for WrestleMania VII?
The original plan was we had Sarge coming back, and we had Adnan Al-Kaisi, and there was turmoil in the Middle East with Iraq and what have you, and Iraq being invaded, Kuwait being invaded by Iraq. And the idea was that Hulk Hogan's good new best friend, Tugboat, would turn his back on America and the Hulkster and adopt the ways of the Middle East and be Sheik Tugboat against the All-American, the real American, Hulk Hogan.
How would Slaughter have been figured into that?
Well, Sarge was going to kind of be, peripheral character at the time. There was the idea to do Chic Tugboat was before Sarge came in. Sarge came back right before SummerSlam, I believe. We did the Great American Sergeant Slaughter Award. So this idea was even before that. So we'd taken Hogan out after WrestleMania sometime, and then Hogan was coming back at SummerSlam. But in the meantime, the idea was that it would be Tugboat that would be the one to lead that charge, and Tugboat be his friend, and that Tugboat would be the one that would eventually turn. Along the way, Sarge comes back.
Fresh off his G.I. Joe deal.
Yep. And Sarge comes back, and it's like, well, what if the real American hero, G.I. Joe, Sergeant Slaughter, turned his back on America and the real American Hulk Hogan? So thank God for Sergeant Slaughter coming back when he did and stepping into that role. But the build-up was one of Sarge being an Iraqi sympathizer, and
wait, hang on. Why would Vince have picked Tugboat?
Because he was a big, huge guy and humongous arms and big pythons, if you will, and they just saw
a monster.
A monster, yeah, and it was a big monster for Hogan to destroy when it came time. Big guy to beat. So, like to create monsters for the Hulkster.
So an audible is called at this point, and for whatever reason.
Well, thank God we hadn't got into the turn.
But y'all had already started to do some teases.
Well,
right?
we had done the teases with Tugboat being the one to bring Hulk back and everything. Man, Tugboat and Hogan teamed at Survivor Series. We were kind of already that ship had sailed, so to speak, but. Sarge coming in when he did, and being that Iraqi sympathizer, and it was just topical. It was what had been done in the business for eons. You take the foreign menace. We were at war with Germany, and after the war in Germany, the heels were all Germans, and after the war in Japan, all the heels were Japanese and threw salt. Well, we hadn't gone to war yet, but you had a hell of a heel over in Iraq by the name of Saddam Hussein that everybody hated and was on the news every week. So why not have an Iraqi sympathizer? And what's worse than having an Iraqi in General Adnan, but to have an American, a G.I. Joe that represented everything that was right in America, an American hero, and Sergeant Slaughter, turn his back on his own country. And that was the thought process. And to go to Mania, the real American versus the American turncoat. And this was obviously before things escalated in the Middle East.
Well, but you were still kind of building this pay-per-view around a real-life conflict.
Always did. They always built things around real-life conflicts. World War II was a real-life conflict.
Well, hang on. You said they right there. This is you.
This isn't me personally.
Oh, you personally were there.
Yeah, I was personally there, and yeah, I was behind it. And I definitely did support it. And it's what they had done. The Hollywood, wrestling, historically, took foreigners and made them heels and bad guys. And you propped up your American heroes. And that's exactly what we were doing.
What was
and before that, before we even necessarily, before we even had conflict in Iraq, we had booked, because the Los Angeles Coliseum had approached us about coming in and holding the event in the Los Angeles Coliseum, which held over 100,000 people. And we went out there, we flew out there, they had a huge presentation, they set a ring up on the 50-yard line, and they had the big screens up, they had put seats on the field around it, and had
they did a big
cameras out. Oh, they had a huge sell. I mean, they had, WrestleMania VII up on the scoreboard, and they had video, so that when we walked in, we were up on the big screen and stuff. They had this beautiful luncheon for us. And that was, God, I want to say it was right after or right before, well, it was right before WrestleMania VI. And because we had done 6 in Toronto, and this was going to be bigger than 6.
Right.
So we had been out there and done the tour, made the decision, okay, we'll do this. And then as time went on, it was like, well, take Hulk's best friend, Tugboat, and, do the turn and triumphant return of the Hulkster.